Hey everybody, this is Greens and I'm bringing you yet another classic game, this time for the Super Nintendo. If you haven't figured it out already, this is Sunset Riders, one of my favorite games of all time. This game was developed by Konami and it was released in 1991 as an arcade game. I remember going to the local pizza place and playing this in arcade, and it was just one of those games that you just didn't want to stop playing. You wanted to get more quarters and play it all day until you beat it. But yes, this was released in 91 as the arcade, and in 92 for the Sega Genesis, and 93 for the Super Nintendo. And I found this copy for the Super Nintendo at a garage sale. There was someone that had posted an ad for a bunch of classic and retro games that were going to be sold there, and I'm very happy I went. There was definitely a lot to choose from. And I was looking through all the Super Nintendo games, and I actually glanced over this a couple times but didn't know what it was by name. I only remember it as the cowboy game on the arcade. So I'm very happy I found this one. He priced it at $40, and $40 is pretty steep for any video game that's out there, I believe. Any kind of retro game at least, but this one definitely is worth it. I did not pay $40 necessarily for the game. I did bundle quite a bit of games together. I think I got about 4 or 5 games that day. So overall, I think I only ended up paying about maybe somewhere around 20 bucks for the game, which is still a pretty good steal. But anyway, about the game, Sunset Riders here. The original arcade had 4 different characters that you could choose from. And the way that you would choose is you would go to the corresponding controls, and then that would match you up with the player on the screen. Now there's 4 characters in the game, and it was kind of ambiguous to me as to whether they're sheriffs or just straight out bounty hunters that are going after, you know, the bad guys. But there was Steve, which was the yellow, I guess, bounty hunter. There was Billy, which was the blue bounty hunter. Bob, which was the green bounty hunter, and Cormano, which wore the poncho and was kind of the red bounty hunter. Now, Steve and Billy, they both had single shooter guns, and that's what you would start out with, whereas Bob and Cormano have the shotguns with the spread. So depending on your playstyle, you can choose either 2 of the 2 different types. I've always found it easier to use the spread in this game. It just covers more area and it's less micromanaging work to do, basically. So for the Super Nintendo version of this game, up to 2 players could play at one time. Now this is very different than the arcade version where it could be 4-player simultaneous action. However, the game is still very fun and very worth it. If you don't own it for Super or any other system, I still would, strongly recommend it. Now some other things about the game is it is a side-scroller from left to right. You do have power-ups in the game, which are very interesting. There are silver stars and gold stars. Now the silver star in the game will basically give you a second weapon. Steve and Billy start off with the single shot revolvers, and once they get their second weapon, they're able to shoot in 2 directions at once at different angles than they originally had. Bob and Cormano, they have the shotguns with the spread, so when they pick up the silver star, they basically get a wider spread of fire. There's also the gold stars in the game, and these are basically upgrades to increase the fire rate of your gun. This enables the players in the game to shoot faster and increase their damage per second. Now these power-ups in the games can be found a couple of different ways. There's certain enemies that will drop these items. Sometimes they'll be placed on the ground at certain designated spots, or you'll run into the closest saloon possible and come out with the upgrade and the girl. Another feature of the game that I want to discuss with you guys is the boss fights. In total, there are 8 different bosses that you will encounter in this game, and I feel like a lot of your energy when you play this game is spent on the boss fights in comparison to the levels, which seem a lot shorter. There is a lot of time that you will need to invest in playing this game by figuring out all the bosses' moves and how they attack, but in the end it is well worth it. Even playing this game on easy mode, boss fights do prove to be very challenging. One of the biggest tips in this game that I found is to always keep moving and make sure that you don't get stuck in a corner. Also, make sure to take out the boss's henchmen first before you attack the boss. If you do it this way, there will be a lot less bullets to avoid and will make the boss a lot more manageable. The last thing about this game I want to talk about is the artistic style. I really like the way that they drew all the characters and all the backgrounds. This game does tend to be very cliche when you think of the Old West, but it does make it a lot more enjoyable, at least for me. The best way that I can describe this is when you're fighting the Smith brothers and the two henchmen that are standing on top of the chandelier have their hats tilted down. To me, that really makes it a very interesting and very visually pleasing game. Overall, the look and feel of this game is definitely worth the price that you may have to pay to own a copy of this game. To me, this game gets 2 thumbs up. Alright everybody, I hope you enjoyed the Sunset Riders review for the Super Nintendo, and if you haven't subscribed to the channel yet, make sure you do before you leave, and I'll catch you guys later.